Hello again, everybody. Barry Hyatt here in Scottsville with Janet Johnson at the University of Kentucky Extension Office. And this is July. We're talking recipe of the month. And this month, I think we're going to talk about some tomatoes here, aren't we, Janet?
You know, Barry, what is better than a homegrown tomato? And even with the drought, we still have seemed to have tomatoes that are coming on. And with this rain, I think they'll be in even more. So we've got
our fingers crossed on that, yeah.
Absolutely, it's great. And you know, tomatoes are good just to slice. Tomatoes are good. We've made several sauces using tomatoes that are especially great with lots of fresh summer tomatoes.
Sure.
But here we're going to do a main dish, and we're going to do a takeoff of the old-fashioned tomato pie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, but we're going to simplify, use some convenience products, and we're actually going to make this pie, instead of using a pie pan, we're going to do it as a tart, and we're going to use a pizza pan, and it's so much simpler.
Now, what did you use right here just for the crust?
Okay, I cheated, Barry. I did not make those great homemade crusts that grandmother used to make, but what you can purchase now are pie crust in your dairy case. Various companies have various types. Everybody has their favorite.
Sure.
So this is a pie crust ready to roll out, and all I did was take one of the pie crust, just unrolled it into a 12-inch pizza pan.
Okay.
Fits great. And then I just simply crimped a little bit around the edges, just like you do with a pie, you know, but did it flat up to the edge of the pan, and you can see that it bakes out just a little bit.
Okay.
So we made a shell. We baked this at 425 ahead of time for approximately 5-8 minutes till it was brown.
Okay,
and then we brought it out, and immediately, while it was hot, we sprinkled this with a cup of Parmesan cheese.
Okay.
So this has been sitting here waiting for us, and it's ready to go. And all I'm going to ask you to do right now is to take, again, some sliced tomatoes. And what we've done, Barry, we've sliced, I used some Roma tomatoes as a meaty tomato. Now, if you love heirloom tomatoes, that's wonderful. Just remember that a lot of heirlooms are very juicy. And for the pie, you may want to sprinkle that with just a little salt. You know how that kind of sets it just a little bit so the juices are absorbed a little. If not, if you're using a very meaty tomato like a Roma, just slice it up. So what I'll ask you to do is just layer up the tomatoes on the pie, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a nice spreadable sauce that'll go over it.
That sounds good.
And then we'll get it in the oven to bake a little bit, and it's going to be great.
Now, Janet, work with me on this a little bit. Are we just putting these all the way around in a
You
circle?
are.
And then we're
You're
gonna layer them?
just making a circle all the way around the pie. See, you've got it down. You're doing great. You can even put in pieces if you had that. Don't let your tomatoes go to waste. Now, how many tomatoes? It depends on the size, obviously. But with the Romas, you may want to use about 5.
Okay.
Or, depending on size, less. Or if you don't want as many tomatoes, that's fine.
Now, do we want to continue to layer? And now that
You can, and you can even overlap and alternate. Really, you do whatever you want to do with
just want
these.
to double check that. I want to make sure I was doing it the right
I
way.
usually do single layers all the way around, and when we look at the finished product in a moment on a pie that we just happen to have done, again, that allows you to kind of spread evenly and kind of keeps things flat and easier to slice and serve later on.
Like you say, you don't want to waste the tomatoes, so you might as well
You
go and put
don't.
them on there.
If you have one and you sliced it, just put it on there.
Okay,
now, what I'm doing now, this recipe will call for 2 cups of Parmesan cheese, and as we said before, we took 1 cup and put that on the pie crust after it came out of the oven to kind of melt. Now we're going to take the other cup and we're going to form the basis of a salt. So another cup of Parmesan cheese that's been shredded, and then I'm going to use a light mayo. May as well be healthy. You know, while we're at it, you can use anything.
Why be healthy?
Why be healthy? But you know, I kind of like the consistency of this mayonnaise, especially for this too. Now, here's where the recipe actually calls for 1/2 cup, but if you want a lot of sauce, you know, you might fudge a little bit on that. But let's just say, now I've actually got this. Let me get this spoon and do this one. And I'm going to put in, and I'm going to guess, but we're going to add probably a little more than 1/2 cup. That's going to be more toward about 2/3, Barry. Because I want a lot of sauce. Okay? So 1/2 cup or more. That's how we'll leave that. And using the light mayo to cut calories, but it's great for this. Now, the other secret ingredient here is to use a pesto. And I don't know if folks have used this before, but in the cookbook from the Pride of Kentucky that this recipe comes from, there's a recipe accompanying this recipe that talks about making your own pesto. And I've done that. Using olive oil, using some walnuts or pine nuts, and using some basil and celery, and it's wonderful. It's just time consuming. And it's a lot easier to go
to the grocery store.
to go to the grocery store and do this, because what we're doing is adding about 2 tablespoons of pesto. But this is wonderful stuff.
And what does the pesto do for this?
Oh, flavor. It's flavor. It's herbs, it's cheeses, it's oil.
Okay.
So it's the type of thing that if you have this, you can keep this in your refrigerator, and in fact, you can buy a little bit of a French baguette and just slice it and spread some of this on it.
Okay.
It's great with
Sure.
just chopped tomatoes. So you've it's very, very versatile.
Okay.
So I would urge you to invest in this little sauce because it keeps a long, long time in the refrigerator,
Sure.
but it's just flavor. It's a mixture of herbs, some garlic that you can smell.
Right, which is
and
very healthy, I think. Is that
very
right?
healthy,
Yes.
very healthy indeed. And it's already been chopped and blended, so you've eliminated that process.
Sure.
So we have mayo, we have some Parmesan cheese, we have some pesto, and we are going to add, as I said, Parmesan cheese. We had some mozzarella first.
mozzarella, yes.
Now we're going to add some shredded Parmesan cheese. And we're just simply going to mix this sauce up, and it's a very thick, cheesy topping, really, more than even a sauce.
Right.
Okay, so we're just going to mix that up until it's well blended. It's really, really good. Oh, this is so good on
Smells great.
crackers, on flatbread. I mean, this is the kind of thing that you could even mix up this topping for a dip, you know, and serve it like that.
Sure.
So this is very versatile. I love to make this, and you can use it in a lot of different things like that too. So what we're going to do now, and you may even want to, for a little pizzazz, add a little bit of pepper, about a half a teaspoon of some fresh ground pepper there.
Okay.
Maybe some seasoned pepper if you like that.
Sure.
Even wonderful. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to dollop this particular pesto, let me get this out of the way, on our pie, and then we're just
With lots
going
of tomatoes.
with lots of, yes, you have got a hearty tomato tart here, Barry. It looks great. Yeah, we don't want to waste those tomatoes. Absolutely not. And then what you're going to do is we're simply going to take the sauce and spread that on top of the tomatoes so that we just make this nice little coating. And now here's where, you know, when you have a lot of tomatoes, you got to work a little bit harder, you
Sure,
know, like that, but that's okay. Just kind of spread that evenly out to the edges on this tart, okay?
I see what you're saying now. It would be easier just to spread it if you didn't have them stacked like I have right there.
It is a little easier to spread them in a single layer. You're correct, but hey, anything works, Barry. We're
Sure.
okay.
It's going to taste very good regardless.
It's going to taste great. And you know, this is a recipe that is definitely most delicious when it comes out right out of the oven, okay? So you're just kind of spreading that like that.
Sure.
Okay.
Very nicely done. Good job, Janet.
Well, thank you very much, Barry. Okay. And then what we're going to do is put this in the oven. When we bake the pie crust, it was baked at 425. We lowered the temperature to 375, and we're going to put this in for about 20 minutes in the oven. So I'm going to put this in, and we'll let that get to baking.
Okay.
And meanwhile, with TV, we have a finished pie right here.
We do. The
that
magic
we-
of television,
that
as they say.
is the magic touch of TV there too. But you do that, and then Barry, what you do to kind of end this off and really make it neat is to add a few chopped herbs to
Okay.
it. And I have basil. I always try to grow cilantro and basil.
Okay.
And you know, the weather's hard sometimes, but basil is a beautiful, beautiful plant, you know, for your patio. This is right off my patio here. And you want to trim it and cut it back anyway, so this is a
Sure.
great recipe.
Sure.
So in actually cutting these herbs, as we often say here in South Central Kentucky and Northern Tennessee, one of the best ways to do that, Barry, is just to take them and kind of lay them on top of each other,
Okay.
and then just kind of roll
Roll
them
them.
up a little bit, and that makes them a lot easier. And I've got this little gadget, you know, I
Okay.
love,
Okay.
that you just kind of work and you kind of chop them,
Okay.
and it makes chopping a lot easier. Does that make sense?
It does.
And it also allows you to make little curly herbs if you'd like to do that, or we can chop them even finer. And by having this, then what we want to do is sprinkle
Sprinkle.
herbs lightly, and that gives great aroma,
Oh
does
my
it
goodness,
not?
it does. Really. I
Does it
mean,
not?
If this were smell-o-vision, I'm telling you guys.
Oh, it's great. And it just adds some more color, some more nutrition, of course, but great flavor.
Oh, it
great
looks awesome.
flavor.
It really
so
does.
it's a wonderful summer supper that you
And
have.
do you, just off the top of your head, you know, I'm sure it's not loaded with too many calories, would it be?
Actually, it is not loaded with too many calories. Now, the pesto, obviously, you know, when you're adding a lot of cheese to it, but really not. I mean, it's not a $500 or $600 calorie a slice meal. It's not that way
Right.
at all. And of course, it depends on the size slice and how many you eat. but it's an extremely nutritious supper.
Would you say this
Great
would be?
for you.
Would you say this would be a great alternative to pizza, possibly?
It is, because again, we're not adding meats, we're adding some cheeses, but we're doing a veggie pizza.
Right,
I
right.
mean, really, it is a pizza, except, of course, we're using a pie crust, which is not a yeast-based crust, as we know.
Right.
So it has a much flakier texture and more of that great southern pie
Yeah.
that people love so much. It's really, really a good recipe.
Well, this is great. I'm gonna have to try this at home when I
You
get
will
back
love
home.
it. You
Most
definitely
definitely. Well, thanks so much, Janet. And
Thank
this is
you.
July, of course. Next month is August. Any idea maybe what you might be trying to plan up for next month?
Well, I tell you, we always look. We have not hit that proverbial favorite with sweet corn, and we're going to assume if we get those good rains
Yes.
that we're going to have good corn. So corn probably is where we're going to go. If not, we'll jump to watermelons.
Okay. Either one would be
Either
great.
one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, thanks, Janet. Thanks so
Thank
much,
you.
guys, for watching, and we will see you again next month. So take care, and we'll see you then.
Our next stop this week takes us to Macon County General Hospital. Hospital staffers through the years have been taking care of patients for almost 6 decades.
It goes back to 1955 when Dr. Smith and Chitwood founded the original hospital, and it was actually owned by them for several years. And then in the early 70s, it was actually sold to a company called HAI, and then HAI worked with the board, and then the hospital went not-for-profit. And then HAI managed the hospital while the hospital became not-for-profit in 1975, and the hospital has been not-for-profit ever since. And then around 1975-76, they did do an expansion of the hospital, and that's what you see now to the west side of the hospital. The patient rooms and everything are all 1978. And like I said, we've been not-for-profit ever since then.
Dennis Wolford has served as the hospital's chief executive officer for 28 years. He says he loves his job because it's like seeing family members each day he goes to work. He's also excited about the hospital's future.
Looking at the future of healthcare, especially for small rural hospitals, critical access hospitals like we are, the toughest thing to do is get some of the specialists, out here. Your neurologist and your some of your specialty surgeons and different things. But through telemedicine, we can connect with them. In fact, we already have an arrangement with Vanderbilt with their neurologists. And what that does provide is we have a stroke patient come into our emergency room. We have a contract with Vanderbilt. There's a neurologist available 24/7. So our ER docs can, through telemedicine, connect with the neurologist. They can talk back and forth, looking at each other over TV or either through iPad. They can actually look at the patient. We can do the evaluation and everything. So this is how we get some of the specialists to the small rural areas. And I think this is an area that's going to grow because that it's not practical for some of these specialists to physically come up here, but we are connected through the telemedicine program, and we are going to expand this further.
Wolford says using the telemedicine approach is a win-win situation for the patients and his doctors.
In some cases, we'll find that after talking to the neurologist and running some of the tests, the ER doc talking back and forth to the neurologist, this patient may not even have to be transferred to begin with. We may be able to keep them right here at home where they live, and they won't have to be transferred by ambulance or helicopter to Vanderbilt. That I see is going to be an advantage, in the future, is that when we find out, after the patient's been screened and everything, and in some cases, like if we have a heart attack victim, we want to connect with the cardiologist. It may be a situation that we can keep the patient right here. They may not have to be transferred to another facility. So it has the potential of keeping some of the local patients right here, but you still get the consultations and the expertise of the specialists in some of the larger hospitals in the Nashville area.
Latice Jones serves as the RN emergency room manager. She knows how badly this area needs a hospital that features an ER.
We have a great need in this community for the ER, and we see over 700 patients a month in the ER, and that is our main entrance to the hospital, and people depend on it being here because you're talking 30 miles away for the nearest ER, bigger ER. So we see an abundance of patients in the ER, and I think it's a great asset to the community to have the emergency room here.
Jones knows firsthand how valuable Macon County General's emergency room is.
I'm biased, but the other thing is this hospital years ago saved my life. So I know what it's like to need this hospital here. Sure, everybody has their ups and downs in a hospital, but the community needs to realize what an asset that this hospital is to the community, and that it's here for everyone, no matter what, and that we are here to serve them.
Barbara Solomon is the hospital's chief nursing officer. She's worked at this facility for 35 years.
The patients, of course, are our prime priority, but the families are important also because, sometimes we need to be the caregiver to the patients' families also because they go through a hard time too, and we need to educate them and teach them about care and the way that the patient needs to be taken care of when they go home. Those kinds of things. We teach the patients about their medicines and about how to take them and what the effects are of them, how to do total, if there's something that they've not had before, like if they've had surgery and they go home and they have an incision, those kinds of things are very, very important that we teach them.
Solomon says hospital patient surveys show almost 100% of patients are pleased with the care they receive at MCGH.
A lot of the hospitals have done away with nursing assistants, and they're really the bedside person, that's there, mentoring the patient and taking care of them and providing the excellent care that they need, like the turning and the skin care and the mouth care and all the things that go into total patient care. Not just the things of taking care of their diseases or their medical needs, but also the things that they need just on a daily basis, hour to hour. We have an excellent nursing staff from the RNs all the way down to the ward clerks. I mean, and we are a team, we work together, and our goal is to have patient satisfaction 100% and provide the care that we would want. And I've always felt like this. I always wanted the girls to give care to the patient just like they would my mother if she was laying there. And if we do that, then everything's going to be fine.
Something you may not know is you can have surgery performed at Macon County General. Skyline Dr. Thomas Taylor visits MCGH every other Tuesday and performs surgeries ranging from gallbladder surgeries to colonoscopies.
This hospital here has some pretty advanced technology also, which enables you to bring your experience and the things that you've learned to the smaller community hospitals. So it is, it's gratifying. It's really fun to be able to bring just a little bit of what you can do at a larger city into the smaller city.
But it's Macon County General that holds a special place in Taylor's heart, much more so than the bigger Nashville hospitals.
Oh yeah, it's pretty neat. I was born here in July 11th, 1964, and my father worked for Tri-County Electric here in town, and we lived here till I was 6 and then moved north into Allen County. We always came back to visit, and we had friends here and so forth. And when I got the opportunity to come here, I thought it would be kind of neat to practice surgery and medicine in the hospital where I was born.
Tim Emerton is a radiology technician. He's worked here 11 years. Patient care is his main objective.
Depending on what's wrong with the patient, you have to move them in and quick, to be really quick with it. And this new CT we've got moved up to a 16 slice, and it just gets them in that much quicker, and we get the test done and get it to where we can send it to the doctor and get it read and get them moved on to another facility or find out what's wrong with them a whole lot quicker.
Macon County General also performs mammograms. Staffers pride themselves on making patients feel at ease as much as possible in a comfortable setting. Off-site, the hospital also staffs a rehabilitation clinic for its patients. April Emerson is the director.
My responsibility is just to make sure that we have adequate staffing to cover things that the patient care that we do at the hospital, to cover the patients that we have coming in here, to make sure that all of the staff has the training that they need, and then to kind of be a bridge between rehab and the community. So I work a lot with Stacy and different people to make sure that services that we can provide support for in the community, we do that.
The bottom line, Macon County General may not be the newest or biggest hospital in the area, but it provides an invaluable service to the community it serves.
Lots of times people think that bigger is better, you know, but you've got to keep in mind that our doctors are trained in the same places that the other doctors are in the larger hospitals. Our nursing staff go to the same nursing programs that the nurses at the larger hospitals do. So we all utilize the same training, so we have just as much quality personnel than anybody else. So when you say bigger is better, I don't believe that.
Something countless others think as well. Reporting in Macon County, Barry Hyatt, NCTV.